Well, hello everyone, and welcome to Hogarth's Global Astrology. Know your planets, know yourself, or yeah, know your nation, know yourself. Actually, I think I got my intro back to front anyway. Forgive the slightly craggy appearance. You can see it is daytime, and I really am a night owl. So if I'm recording in the daytime, it's usually because I've had a dream. And indeed, I have had another dream unexpectedly. And this time it was about Bill Gates. Hopefully this video isn't going to be too long because I want it to be short. Because I'm really quite hungry now. I need some food. Anyway, so I was asleep, of course, minding my own business. I went to bed so late last night because, as you know, I do my Wednesday show. So it was Lena, it was Sheila, and it was David of Tower by the Bay. So many of you would have seen that video by the time that you've seen this. We recorded it live, and I've been playing like these these IQ games, which are very addictive, and I have to stop. You know, moving the tiles around, matching the tiles, and they show you IQ score and all this stuff, and you're like, "Whoa, look at that! Wow, 179." I doubt if it's really 179, but anyway, the point is, well, I've scored that quite a few times, I must say. But anyway, I digress. This is not what the video is about, my IQ or what have you. Unexpected, as always, these dreams. Now, what was the dream about? Bill Gates. Bill Gates was in my living room. For some reason, I was entertaining him here. It seemed cordial. It was Bill Gates, and it was he had some kind of assistant with him or something like that. Maybe one or two. But what was interesting was that, and I think I offered him something to drink. It was, me just being hospitable, as anyone would be if you are hosting a guest in your house or flat or what have you. But something interesting happened. So I said, "Oh, please sit down," whatever. And we're talking pleasantries. I can't remember what we're saying. Anyway, he took his jacket off, and something very strange happened, and it was kind of gross. He took off his jacket, and when he put it off to the side, all of these creepy crawlies were just coming out of him and his clothes and everything. I mean, all sorts. There was some that were like lots of little tiny kind of lice. They were like lice and little kind of, little thingy bobs that like that. Some of them were like ticks. Some of them were like bigger bugs. Some of them were spiders. And he was kind of like looking around himself, kind of like looking quite embarrassed. And I was, I was there kind of like, oh, okay, look at all of this stuff. And the assistants there were kind of looking a little bit sheepish and like, it was like, he was laughing awkwardly. And it was so much that I had to get the Hoover. Yeah, I had to get the Hoover and start hoovering up all these bugs because it was starting to become like an infestation. They were going all over the carpet, and I was like, this cannot go up the walls. And I was hoovering away, and it was just this mind-boggling, variety of these different bugs, and little daddy long leg spiders. Some things were flies, like I said, ticks, lice. All of these little kind of things, scrummaging things that you get from soil, and it was like this infestation that he was carrying. I can't remember what happened next. I think we had, after I'd hoovered everything up, we said some pleasantries, and then I think he left because he was just so embarrassed. And it's kind of like as the dream is happening, or maybe immediately after the dream had finished, because you know it's like when you're in the dream state, you really are between, well, you're asleep, but you can also, because I have quite a lot of lucid dreaming, uh so even during the dream, as the dream was unfolding, as it was coming to its end, and Bill Gates was basically kind of exiting stage left, I was already processing what the metaphor of the dream was. And what it said to me was that those bugs for me were a physical sort of like representation of all of the tentacles that Bill Gates has in the world. Because I was also feeling like Africa as well. I feel like some of the bugs and stuff like that were like from African soil, like what I'd seen on like pardon me, David Attenborough wildlife shows or something like that. There weren't any like woodgedy grubs. Well, they don't have woodgedy. Well, in Australia, they have woodgedy grubs. There wasn't things like that. There weren't any. It was these lice. It was, and they were very quick and they were everywhere. It was like literally, I had to get the Hoover out and suck them all up. You know, while Bill Gates is there, sort of like looking guilty and awkward, and it was really awkward. And it told me that some of these billionaires' reach is like an infestation. It's like they've got this. It's like they've got their fingers in so many different pies, but they're also meddling with a lot of things that are behind the scenes, because they weren't daytime bugs, if you know what I mean. These were things that kind of scrummage around, and they digest stuff. Bugs, they're very, very important. In fact, they're saying because of all these pesticides, the actual global tonnage of bugs is falling dramatically, and without bugs, we're finished. But I think it was the metaphor was the depth and the extent and the levels of infiltration the likes of Bill Gates have. And it wasn't just him. I was also sensing in the dream, like, oh God, if I had another billionaire here, they would have all sorts of bugs coming out of their clothes as well. Probably different one, but it was a metaphor for that class of people. Or but Bill Gates in particularly, but and his cohorts. We know he's in the EPS, and I just found that very interesting, and it's just kind of like, wow, they're really getting involved in absolutely everything. This could also be as well. It could also be analogous to their staff. That they've got working for them constantly. It could also be analogous to the AI that they've got them working for them constantly, all there in the background. The bots and the gathering of information. If you think of what insects do, they go out and they gather. If you think of ants, for example, where they gather the food, they gather the leaves, they make their nests, they chew, they digest. They break things down into smaller components. Yeah, they put things under the soil. A lot of insects work at night. Yeah, these were definitely nocturnal. The vibe that I was getting, because none of them were like colorful. It wasn't like these bright, beautiful beetles that you get sometimes, or scarabs, or something more noble like that. It was like the real bottom feeding those insects. It's still very important, and I don't want this to be a disparaging to insects, yeah, because we really, really need insects. But this isn't about the insect population per se. It is more about the nature of Bill Gates and his ilk, and the people that are operating on this level and always being given that metaphor. Also, as well, I wanted to add, particularly on the subject, of like infestations and stuff like that. So on my the show, what is last night, so today's date is the 2nd of July 2026. So my show went out 1st of July yesterday. Yeah, with like I said, it was what did I call it? Hodalish. Yeah, so it was me, David, Lena, and Sheila. We did a reading on Todd Blanche, and we did Shakespeare. Yeah, we did Shakespeare, and the quote that Todd Blanche got from Shakespeare was basically, I'm kind of like misquoting a little bit, but it was like basically, "May the plague of Greece be upon thee." Yeah, something like that. It was words to that effect. Now I realized I think I misinterpreted that that plague, yeah, because I thought there might be almost maybe even a kind of a sexual component to it, you know, something like syphilis or something like that. But no, it was literal. Yeah. So I want to give a shout out, thank you to Laura Sosnowski. Yeah. And she said, she's written here, I've just literally copied down the email. And as you know, I do prefer people, if you're going to write me an email, to be inquiring about, you know, consultations, etc. and stuff like that. But I love an educational email like this. If you've got any questions, I'll just have to reiterate, please just leave them on the post section. So like when I ask for questions, please leave them there. Questions that come to me via my email, they don't make the show. They don't make the cut. Yeah, they don't make the cut because I'm too busy in the day doing what I'm doing. As you know, I spend a lot of time with my clients, serving and looking after my clients, as well as running my own life. And when I come to do the shows, I prepare the show an hour before. Yeah. And where I post the questions in the post, people leave the comments, and then I read the questions there. Any question that comes to me via email doesn't make the cut. Yeah, just so you know, because I'll be reading it, and it will be after the show has happened, or it'll be in between shows. It will be times where I have time to check my email. I don't always have time to check my email all, you know, and I don't want to be in two places because I have to focus a lot. With the live shows, it takes a lot of concentration. You know, I can't be just scrabbling around thinking, oh, what was that email I had last week or whatever. So please, just basically, if you email me questions, they won't make the cut because I literally don't have time. And I just wanted to make that clear. However, this wasn't a question. This was a clarification and an education, which is much appreciated. So she's written here, the Greek plague was devastating. Now she says, hi, Hogarth. The Shakespeare quote used on Wednesday's show on your YouTube references a real devastating plague that swept Greece way back when. And they put here the quote. So they've got the bit from the internet and they've copied and pasted it. And it says there, the plague of Athens was a devastating epidemic that struck Athens during the Peloponnesian War. And the second she wrote that, I was like, oh my God, well, I remember the war. I wasn't there, of course, but you never know, past life. But anyway, I've heard of the Peloponnesian War. Killing an estimated 25% of the city's population between 400 and 426 BCE. Yeah, it entered through the port of Piraeus and caused widespread death, social breakdown, and lasting political consequences for Athens. Wow, she wrote. Now, think about that. The second I read that, I was like, oh my God, that's even more profound. Because we're talking about the confirmation of Todd Blanche. Yeah? Will it be confirmed or not as the DOJ? You know, I can't recycle the whole thing, but you guys would have seen that video by now. But if you think of Congress, yeah, so it's just when I think about it, I'm like, it gives me goosebumps. When we think of Congress, yeah, a lot of it is based on what the Greek concepts of democracy, isn't it? The Senate, yeah, the this, the that. Think of the neoclassicism, the neoclassic style of the White House and many of the things in Washington and public buildings in America, well, in the UK, you know, Europe in general, but that's where they got the ideas from. Think of Trump's ballroom. That is being done in neoclassical style, you know, with those columns, yeah, with the Greco columns, and of course then appropriated by the Romans as well. But that is the origin. So when Shakespeare was saying, "May the plague of Greece be upon thee," it's like that. What he's saying is, it's like he's like a plague. It's going to be like a plague on Congress, but it's almost like a plague on America in a way. When I was just processing it, I was thinking, oh my goodness. And it shows how, you know, Duck L'Orange and this regime, how they are this plague. They are a plague. And what it's, you know, here again, the plague of Athens was a devastating epidemic that struck Athens during the Peloponnesian War, killing an estimated 25% of the city's population between 430 and 426 BCE. It entered through the port of Piraeus and caused widespread death, social breakdown, and lasting political consequences for Athens. So when we think of, like I was, you know, about the economy that I've been warning about, we've got Balbert's basket, you know, coming up. If we think of like how much Duck L'Orange has degraded things, how much this administration has degraded things, broken things down, it is almost like this plague from within, isn't it? As it were. And of course, I hope that doesn't translate literally, but when I'm thinking of like the cost of living, people struggling, you know, to pay their bills, get food, the price of gas, and the readings that we were doing in that show in general, and then putting that quote back in context in regards, or having Laura putting that extra context in there for me, I'm like, this is even more profound, yeah, because of course, you know, Shakespeare's not going to be like, may the plague of the Peloponnesian War in, you know, in 430 BC plague you. No, he just said, may the plague, you know, may the plague of Greece, you know, fall upon thee, or what have you. I don't know if you can even find it now, because, you know, it's like this book here is, but you know what I mean. You guys saw it, but the point is that, wow, I think that is very profound. So and then this dream, because I only found this out just now, by the way, yeah. I had the dream before before I printed off the quote. And isn't it interesting? I was seeing Bill Gates with like all these creepy crawlies and all of this kind of stuff, because I was really tired. I really wanted to stay in bed, and I was like, no, Huggy, we have to talk about the dream. And then I saw the email, and I'm like, oh my goodness, it's connected. It's all connected. It's like this infiltration, this sickness, this disease that needs to be expunged. Yeah, needs to be expunged. This disease of greed and corruption and immorality and stuff like that. Anyway, I don't want to stay on my pulpit too much, so I hope you guys found that interesting. I'll release this to membership first, and then oh gosh, I'm so tired. I've got a client later on today, so I probably should have some breakfast, go for a walk. Anyway, I'll release this to membership first, then I'll put it out there on the public. Trying to think which day. Maybe later on today, or maybe on Saturday. Maybe I'll release it on Saturday, something like that. Anyway, hope you found that interesting. Please be sure to like and subscribe and share and hype, all that jazz. Thank you for contributing to the channel and helping it grow. So nice to see the new members. Well, I say members, that's great too, but subscribers. You see, I'm barely awake. I'm going to leave it there before I'm just babbling on. So thank you so much, everyone. Big love. Do let me know your thought in the comments, what you think about the creepy crawlies and the clarification on Shakespeare's quote. Quite intriguing, isn't it? All right, big love, everyone. And I will see you soon. Cheers.